In 1868, the borderland between Texas and Mexico was a map of dry ravines and jagged limestone ridges. Beyond the reach of any formal law, the landscape was defined by its isolation and a geography that favored the ambush. Survival meant navigating the constant presence of raiding parties. Groups of Comanche, Apache, and Kickapoo warriors moved through these mountains with speed, making any traveler in the open a potential target. August Santleben made his living in the middle of this gauntlet. As a professional stagecoach operator and freighter, he spent decades driving heavy wooden coaches through territories where help was always days away. The stakes of his cargo were enormous. Santleben frequently hauled massive fortunes in physical Mexican silver coin, cargo so valuable that the mere sight of his coach was enough to attract every outlaw gang in the region. In this environment, safety was a matter of strict protocol. You kept your escort armed, your horses moving, and your doors locked. The golden rule was simple: paranoia was mandatory, and you never stopped for a stranger. But near the base of a table mountain called Mesa de Viduri, Santleben encountered a sight that didn't fit the landscape. At the break of day, he spotted a well-dressed man on foot, walking alone through the desert scrub. This was a sterile, uninhabited region. Being caught here without a horse usually meant a slow death from heat and dehydration long before the next traveler passed by. Santleben looked at the man and did the one thing his profession forbade. He hit the brakes, bringing the heavy coach to a halt and kicking up a massive cloud of dust in the morning light. The stranger was surprisingly calm. He politely explained that his horse had broken loose and run away, and that his men were currently chasing it further down the road toward the Rio Grande. By choosing compassion over his own survival rules, Santleben took a massive gamble. He had stopped his coach and exposed his passengers and his silver cargo to a man he knew nothing about. Santleben invited the man into the coach. For the next several hours, they shared a journey that was remarkably civil. The stranger was soft-spoken, manly in his bearing, and deeply polite to everyone on board. When they finally spotted the man's crew in the distance, Santleben went a step further. He pulled out his field glasses and physically taught the stranger how to focus them so he could identify his own horses on the horizon. When the coach finally reached the men, the stranger stepped out. He thanked the driver and passengers with a level of gratitude that Santleben found genuine and profound before the stagecoach pulled away. As they resumed their pace, Santleben's driver, Alex Gross, looked back with a skeptical expression. "Say, boss," he said, "that fellow isn't all right." Gross sensed a danger that the polite conversation had masked. He had the gut feeling that, despite the man's manners, they had just survived a close encounter with someone who didn't belong in polite society. Months later, Santleben learned how right his driver had been. The stranded traveler was Castro, the most notorious and feared highwayman in the state, a man who made his living robbing the very stage lines Santleben operated. But instead of targeting Santleben, Castro began telling the story of August the stage man to other outlaws. He expressed such gratitude for the help in the wilderness that Santleben's reputation began to precede him across the underworld. The two men soon met again unexpectedly. Santleben was driving up a hill when armed men stepped from the shadows of a tree grove and signaled for the coach to stop. The interaction was a total reversal of a standard robbery. They embraced like old friends. Santleben quickly gifted the outlaw spare ammunition, and in return, Castro tore 2 silver bell buttons off his own hat, insisting Santleben keep them as a remembrance. Santleben's small act of kindness had purchased a unique form of frontier insurance. He hadn't just survived a highwayman. He had gained the personal protection of the very man most drivers spent their lives trying to avoid. Castro's friendship with Santleben didn't mean the outlaw had suddenly become a peaceful man. He remained a predator, targeting only those who had an abundance of wealth to lose. Shortly after their reunion, Castro led his gang in a violent holdup of the international stage line near Santa Catarina. He targeted a single wealthy passenger returning from a business trip, stripping him of $10,000 in cash before disappearing back into the mountains. Castro's mercy was highly selective. The fact that he could brutally rob one coach while actively protecting Santleben's silver-hauling wagons shows that his gratitude was a deliberate, calculated exception to his usual violence. This encounter highlights a specific social dynamic of the era. In a region without a functioning government, survival often relied on a strict, unwritten code of personal obligation and reputation. Saint-Laban noted that Castro was lavish in his distributions to the poor, which earned him protectors among the needy. By placing Saint-Laban in that same circle of friends, Castro applied the same bandits' logic. Those who provided help were rewarded with fierce, personal loyalty. Most travelers relied on physical defense, like this lever-action rifle, to protect their property. It was a necessary tool for the border, but it only worked as long as you were fast enough to use it. In a landscape where carrying wealth made you a constant target, a loaded rifle provided one layer of safety. That by treating a vulnerable stranger with dignity, Saint-Laban built a psychological shield that proved more durable than any escort.